Hello, my name is Iris Maria Tusa, and in this presentation I will discuss my photography quest, the motivation and influences behind my work, and my future practice. The red thread that invisibly connects my past, present, and future unrolls from my early childhood. I was 6 years old and sitting with my grandfather and his friends in an old Turkish tavern in Constanza. All my senses were heightened in the dim light. My eyes stared at old photos hanging from the walls, people's forehead lines and their expressive hands when they told fascinating stories about their destinies. Sometimes there was no talk. I only listened to the silence or the sounds of Anatolian music played in the background. I could sense an overwhelming earthy smell, like of a parched land blown by the winds, showing the fragility and yet at the same time the endurance of these people. Like my grandfather's family, Greeks, Armenians, Turks, Tatars, Jewish and Romanian people were brought to Dobroja by the turmoil history of the Balkans in the late 18th and early 19th century. As I grew older, I became more curious about the world around me. As a microbiologist by education, I started looking at the invisible life. I understood how the application of mirrors and lenses in technology could reveal aspects that are sometimes overlooked, although they are visible. The camera became an intrinsic part of mine in my work and personal travels around the world. As I evolved as a photographer, I operated with new visual languages to reveal layers of meanings and emotional range by being more attentive to aspects like light, texture, color, shapes, and rhythm. A cornerstone in my quest was when I stepped foot in Antarctica as a researcher. For the first time, I felt a strong connection with the majestic landscape, but also with people met during these journeys. Their portraits and testimonials I later published in my photo book, My Antarctic Journal. This last experience made me want to photograph people and places in a more structured and documented way. It brought me back to my childhood places and memories related to Dobroja, a region that still whispers the history heard above the noise of time. My objective is to create a body of work about people and places that fade or alter due to history and human economic activities in the old multi-ethnic villages of Dobroja and which resonate with my childhood memories. As asserted by Freud and Adler, memories may be screens behind which the forgotten elements of the experience are hidden, thus, they cannot be considered childhood memories, but memories about childhood. I relate more to Adler's theory that viewed them as means of projective techniques. Childhood memories contribute to the strengthening of self-identity, while the amnesic recall is assured by the perceptive sensorial characteristics and the intensity of feelings. In this photographic journey, I'm inspired by two artists that created relevant artworks capturing the mix of ethnic groups, cultures, and traditions that coexist in Dobroja. First one is photographer Anatole Magrin, that understood how important it is to move out of the studio and take pictures of peoples in their settings that add value to the viewer's understanding of their stories, traditions, and history. And the second is Yossi Visser, who described in his paintings a world of sensuality, oriental slowness that seems to hold the time in place, and solar vitality that does not reveal everything about the people but creates a sense of mystery. Further, I am inspired by artists that sense the connection between people and landscaping and represented it either literal or ethereal. In her portraits of space, Lee Myler alludes to what she may have felt at the time, creating a sense of surrealism and longing. Peter Zumthor also studied this connection in his book Atmosphere. Paul Klee's evocation of landscape through parallel figuration cut by diagonals and verticals with rich patterns combined with a light palette of colors is a source of inspiration in my work. Thus, the landscape becomes a timeless structure with a poetic element added and communicated in a way unknown to that point. Or sometimes, the landscape needs to be transformed to communicate better emotions, like in Paolo Pellegrin's and Witold Krakowski's works. I am determined to best capture the essence of the subjects and settings and avoid stereotypes. As Kandinsky observed, the members of an ethnic minorities have an underlying reality that cannot be observed directly and may lead to an oversimplified and generalized approach to taking images. In taking photographs, I try bringing tension and emotion, and in doing so, I'm inspired by the dissonant harmony in photography. This is a principle borrowed from music, where the impression of stability and response is altered by sounds that build tension while maintaining the overall pleasantness of the music. When thinking about photographers that inspired me, on how they connected to the community, Caroline Drake's comes to mind and the way she collaborated with the Uyghurs by bringing them into the creative process in her project Wild Pigeon, and Shannon Jensen that reveals South Sudan's people stories by using images of shoes as a silent testimony of their owners' stories, or Big Deportee and her traveling by Trans-Siberian and living in people houses for her project Omenia. This made me spend more time and integrate better in the communities I photographed. Reflecting on my photographic quest so far, I realized the need for a more structured approach in my work. Thus, I would deepen my knowledge of the underlying concepts associated with psychogeography as a methodology in relation to investing Dobroja and its villages. In addition, I intend to research further the anthropology, history, and cultural heritage of the places and people in Dobroja as complementary methodologies. I would like to deepen my knowledge and experiment more with Polaroid cameras that obliges me to embrace its limitations. I will also review different methods for investigating people and places by researching bodies of works of several artists that seem relevant to my project like Reha Beldil or Maha Daniels. Thank you for listening.